Firebrand, we have a problem.
Looks like a day ending in Y. What's it this time?
Our security department received a package for you.
And? It got scanned, right?
No. You should probably see why.
It's a box. I don't get it.
Look closer.
Open for a 0.002% chance to get something necessary for your enjoyment. It's just a loot box. What's the issue?
The guards refused to scan it because it would be, quote, cheating.
And that's the aneurysm that took away my memory of the 5th grade.
We'll send it back tomorrow.
Good. Curse my innate desire for serotonin!
Ha-ha! Finally! I was getting a cramp.
No.
Too bad, Firebrand. You have succumbed to my surprise mechanics. And now that I have bested your not-so-great security, you are honor-bound to do a review. How about Uncommon Bond? I think that describes our dynamic well.
I hate you.
Take it to Belgium, Sonny. So this opens up with Starlight at the station.
Excuse me, when does the noon train from the Crystal Empire arrive?
All right, good foot forward.
Although it's also practical because, you know, train transportation.
Attention travelers, there has been a 3-hour delay on the next train, just because.
You know, I weep for Vinyl Scratch's social life. She never seems to listen. But such is the life of an introverted performer. And oh look, it's a bunch of not crystal ponies. I find it so very weird that they've stopped being crystal 24/7.
Why's that?
Well, the main 6 got crystallized, so it's hardly a unique state. If it's not their default look anymore, what does the Empire have that makes it special?
Flurry heart?
I said special, not terrifying.
Starlight?
Was that little fake out really necessary? I mean, it added no humor or character, it just delayed the inevitable. Guess we gotta get that 22-minute runtime exactly.
Oh, come on. Haven't you felt the tension when you thought that Indiana Jones went over the cliff and this time it might be for realsies? Or how about Godzilla dying halfway through his own movie? Oh, the tension. Or will they, won't they, in any romance movie? Ever.
And looks like Sunburst needs to invest in a Kindle.
I don't think their technology is advanced enough for that.
They rely on trains for transportation and yet have video games. The technology of the show is incredibly inconsistent.
True, but consider what happened the last time they applied a Kindle to a library.
Dark.
But not irrelevant.
Okay, let's drop your stuff off at the castle first.
Sure, only... we may need to make a few trips.
Sunburst has landed on the blacklist of train hatred. Number 3, Derpy. Number 2, Sunburst. Number 1 most hated, Rarity. So they go on Tikiing and Starlight is having trouble keeping up. They then run into Twilight.
Starlight's really been looking forward to your visit.
What was that for?
Later.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Without the help of unicorn magic or Pegasus flight, the Earth ponies of the Mighty Helm were able to map the entire coast of Equestria.
Cool.
Alas, that's every history class I've ever attended. I think it's because we educate kids on memorizing events rather than recognizing trends, seeing how history is alive today.
And map making is a big to-do?
Sort of. It can be amazing to see how people were able to cope without technology. I think it's similar here, except that instead of a lack of technology, it's a lack of magic, and learning how to accomplish great things without it, which will be strangely relevant next season. Oh, get used to this song.
Why's that bad?
You'll see.
You don't have to pretend to like all this stuff.
Oh, wow! You have got to see this Saddle Arabian vanity! This shop looked a lot smaller from the outside.
Interesting thing about this joke, I can only see it coming out of Starlight. Or Spike. Why is that?
Because neither of them has ever owned a home in Ponyville. They both just room with Twilight. Is there a single structure in this town that actually matches the interior with the exterior proportions? I call it TARDIS Town.
What? It's a blind buy. Sometimes shops get too busy to go through everything, so they load up a box or barrel and sell it without knowing what's inside.
Buying one is sort of like a treasure hunt.
I'ma change her name. Twilight Sparkle is now Electronic Arts.
Challenge everything.
That is her name for the rest of the review.
Why don't we look through this stuff later?
Yeah. What do you want to do, Starlight?
Okay, now that's a positive sign. Sunburst recognizes that they've been doing things that he enjoys, and he wants Starlight to have a chance. So she chooses a childhood game. It seems to be a cross between Mousetrap and Chutes and Ladders.
Okay, hacks. I call hacks.
Hey, easy there.
No! Do you know how many times Mousetrap left me hanging? And yet this board game, this sin against physics, not only launches a marble with perfect precision, but an entire trapdoor array goes off without a hitch?
Magic.
Nuts to magic! My nostalgia is making me bitter. Help! I'm trapped by my nostalgia.
I want to know why Electronic Arts freaked out like that. I mean, I can understand a game like Perfection causing a jump, but that?
Oh, Sunburst had the same problem.
Well, it's an exciting game, but I have a little more control over my horn now.
You can just stay locked up in there with your filthy thoughts.
Punish me, Brando-chan.
Ah!
Oh, I'd probably have more in common with Twilight than any pony in Equestria.
Ooh, my shipping senses are tingling.
Ugh, just because people have things in common doesn't mean you should ship them.
I'm gonna. And I'll do the same for Starlight since she broke into his room at night.
Knock, knock!
Quick little side note, if you ship Starlight and Sunburst, their ship names can either be Sunlight or Starburst. One is wholesome and cute, the other is unexplainably juicy.
I couldn't really sleep. I just kept thinking about all the stuff we have in common and how much fun we'll have today.
Great. Is Twilight up yet?
Starlight annoying you? That seems to be a common complaint with this episode.
No, that's typical Starlight behavior. She has trouble with boundaries. Sunburst is the one beginning to annoy me. He's clearly shown earlier that he's perceptive enough to tell when Starlight is being bugged by something. Take a hint, man!
I don't know. Someone comes barging into my room and wakes me up at an unreasonable hour, I'll likely not be too perceptive myself.
My bad!
She does that twice a year, 3 times on a leap year.
Would you mind turning around or preferably leaving the room so I could get changed?
So very modest.
I don't see why he's so shy. He's just putting on a cape.
It's all about perspective, dear Firebrand. Case in point, between the two of us, I'm the nudist.
You realize, of course, that you deserve to die for that joke alone.
Then they go to Sweet Apple Acres.
Here, try an apple. I bet that'll jog your memory. No!
There's that boundary problem you were talking about. It's just meant to be an apple, but she's effectively stealing from the Apple family's livelihood.
And demonstrating that she could probably do her job better than them. That was a quality apple buck.
Without relying on magic. How odd for her.
Guess some teaching is sinking in. Not all of it, but some.
Speaking of sinking in, I'm sure Trixie won't suffer much from a concussion. Much.
I broke up with a birthday cake.
I often seek the privacy of the orchard to practice new feats of amazement. And also I fell asleep.
I really think the Apple family needs to invest in a gate. Or actually use Winona again. Seriously, the pets are almost never mentioned lately.
I don't suppose the two of you want to see a never-before-witnessed magical marvel?
Sure!
Why not?
Okay, I'm gonna fault Starlight here. She's trying too hard to make something happen without being present and enjoying the moment for what it is. Trixie just invited them to do something fun. What's wrong with sharing time with 2 best friends?
Well, sometimes you want to spend time with just that one friend, especially if you don't see them often. I try to get as much one-on-one time as possible with cross-country friends at cons because I don't see them often. And sometimes, having them in a group setting diminishes the quality of the time we spend together. They get distracted or something to that effect.
But then you might also be spending so much time thinking about what isn't happening, you miss out on what's unfolding right before you. Besides, it's as the song goes.
I know this trick.
Do you know the safe word? The safe word is teacup.
I still want to know how Trixie failed that trick. She can literally use magic. Hasn't she transmuted stuff before?
You make it sound so easy. How often have you tried that?
Don't respond, there is no right answer.
Oh my goodness. No. Well, if I could do magic like that.
You'd be a really boring stage performer. You know, if Trixie were an earth pony, I think her act would be a lot more amazing. But a unicorn doing stage magic has always struck me as odd.
I agree, but then again, Starlight and Electronic Arts are more of an exception rather than the rule. We don't see very many impressive feats of magic from the normal unicorn.
Ooh, there's that music again.
I'm getting really annoyed by this. Starlight is constantly getting ignored by these two.
At the same time, she's making an active effort to not get involved. She could just go with the flow and try to add her own thoughts. Or she could be clear and state, hey, could we catch up with Trixie later? I was hoping to show you something. Or even invite Trixie along. The key thing here is that Starlight is looking for parallel play, something that appeals to both her and Sunburst. But she's so set on what she wants to accomplish that she's not willing to go with the unexpected. Though it is indeed a poor reflection on Sunburst that he keeps getting distracted from the friend he originally intended to see.
Boy, I can't wait for all the blame to be put on one character in this episode.
I blame Celestia.
Yeah, you would.
I favor the moon and feast on your anger. Speaking of anger, I notice a distinct lack of it from Trixie. She's usually a pretty intense pony, but practicing magic with Sunburst, she is so easygoing here. It doesn't even matter that Sunburst is whiffing a card trick. That sight of her just shaking her head without a hint of frustration or even condescension is a uniquely pure moment for her.
Maybe she just has such a love of the craft, she doesn't get frustrated. Or maybe she doesn't get frustrated often despite her intensity and impatience. That does make her rather dynamic either way.
Or perhaps she too has finally found some pony with which to connect. Electronic Arts' skill is on a whole other level, so there will always be a barrier between them. No pony else, even Starlight, really gets into prestidigitation. It's like speaking a language that no one else bothers to learn, until one day you find a single person who suddenly understands.
Probably. As C.S. Lewis Senpai once said, friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one."
But from this moment of connectivity, we go to...
Wow, didn't expect that to make a comeback.
No.
What?
No, that's not it. Come on, you know what it is.
I mean, it's supposed to be all dangerous, and I guess I shouldn't have broken the seal to get in, but you wanted to see the sights of Ponyville, right?
So, Pinkie Pie just dove in and made copies of herself?
Mm-hmm. If we made copies of ourselves, we could get a year's worth of hanging out over in one day.
This is why I love Starlight. The girl just goes nuts and does not think through consequences. Even from her villain days, she's still carried over ends justify the means.
At least this time she acknowledges the boundaries before grinding them under hoof. Baby steps.
Do you hear that?
I hope it's not a leftover Pinkie Pie.
Wait, did she have to deal with one of those? We've seen them before. Maybe that could have been the human world Pinkie, but the tone of her voice suggested this was a situation she was personally involved in.
Or maybe she realizes how horrifying the concept of two Pinkies is. That episode was terrifying and hilarious. But it's something even better than a redundant pie. It's Mod Pie.
How did you get in here?
This cavern's actually connected to mine.
I really think that was an oversight by Electronic Arts and crew. Okay, if Starlight were aware of that song, it would become her own personal horror theme now. It fits with just about everything.
Where's Sunburst? I thought he came to Ponyville to see you. I thought so too, but it hasn't worked out that way.
I'm not verbalizing my obvious feelings of neglect, and he's gleefully refusing to see the writing on the wall.
Not refusing. I think more blinded. Let's consider something said earlier.
I suppose I'm just surprised at how well we get along. I don't have much in common with most ponies.
So here's the thing. Sunburst is making a massive mistake by losing track of the friend he came to see. Yet there's a note of vulnerability here. From what little we've seen of Sunburst, his interests are very specific and don't leave a lot of space for casual friends to indulge. He's also very socially awkward on his own. So suddenly he's made 3 friends who enjoy antiques, stage magic, and whatever the heck Maud likes. It's like a man wandering through a social desert only to find an oasis. I can't resent him for getting sidetracked while still acknowledging he's making a mistake.
I can agree with that as long as he actually acknowledges he made the mistake. There are 2 relevant statements my father likes to make. It takes 2 to tango, and own up to your 10%. As long as both parties realize that they both contributed to the situation and honestly take ownership of their mistakes and apologize, there's no problem. However, it's a common mistake that the show, and really people in general, like to throw all the blame on one person for the way they act instead of multiple parties being at fault.
Let's come back to that shortly. For the moment, we need to go to an entirely new level of creepy.
Nothing was better than just you and me playing this game when we were fools, right?
Oh yeah, this is just screaming warning signs. Starlight had Sunburst's attention by creating an entirely new spell, without ascending to Alicorn status by the by. But then she forced him into this fantasy, which reminds me of something. You've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, yeah?
Yeah.
Good, because I haven't. You can fact check me.
You better leave the fact-checking to me. I know that series front to back.
How can you ask a question about a show you've never even seen?
I watched internet reviews about it. That's basically the same thing, right?
No. No, it's not.
Anyway, word is that Azula, the psycho princess of the Fire Nation, went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when associates she thought would obey her exercised free will. Having enjoyed both privilege and natural talent, she wasn't able to cope with the idea of miscalculating or losing control.
The thing I don't understand is why. Why would you do it? You know the consequences.
I guess you just don't know people as well as you think you do. You miscalculated. I love Zuko more than I fear you.
No, you miscalculated! You should have feared me more!
On track so far?
Yeah.
Well, I see the same thing in Starlight. Her first failure was losing Sunburst, and she had no idea how to cope because her skill with magic often allowed for quick solutions. So while Sunburst went ahead and developed new interests, Starlight's life became about holding on to a singular moment. No new interests, no cutie marks, and now she's trying to relive the past, all through the magic with which she's so talented. She doesn't know how to cope otherwise.
For someone so well versed in psychology, you seem to have trouble noticing that Luna's not into you.
Ooh, has she been talking about me?
Well, yes, but...
Aha! I knew it!
Anyways, I want to know, is this actual time travel and age regression, or is this more like the D&D spell hallucinatory terrain? Aging spells are only for the highest level of unicorn, and she does know how to meddle with time, and let the record show she can adjust magical spells she knows due to her natural aptitude. Could go either way. Wait a minute, did Starlight just discover immortality?
She should join the Avengers. But Sunburst snaps at her, and I really can't blame him. This is getting into it puts the lotion on its skin territory.
Yeah, but I'm still annoyed that Sunburst doesn't seem to be noticing the part he's playing in this. Starlight's at least making an effort now to relate. Overdoing it, yeah, but at least she's trying.
Starlight does have a tendency to overdo.
Really now, Miss Want It Need It spell? Miss Monitor Everything? Miss launching her library into the air over a test? Miss Pot talking about the kettle?
Well, to be fair, that was 4 seasons ago.
Which in Equestria time is about 2 weeks, I think. Anyways, Sunburst goes around asking his new friends for things to relate to Starlight. It was a good idea on paper.
Starlight and I don't really have a lot in common, other than feeling different from most ponies. And comedy.
And kites, oddly.
But here's the theme with this episode. It's easy to think that it's about Sunburst and Starlight's bond, but this little tour actually highlights an aspect about Starlight. She bonds with others over feelings more than shared interests. The former enemy who understood her vulnerability. The new best friend who knows that feeling of isolation from past mistakes. The newest friend who doesn't express herself well, and yet they get one another. This is a celebration of all Starlight's friendships.
It's plain to see that Starlight's love language is quality time. This language is about giving the other person your undivided attention. No distractions, no other people, just quality one-on-one time. These people respond well to eye contact, assurance that they exist, being engaged in conversation, being included in activities, scheduled activities, etc. And because Starlight's being blown off, her scheduled time with Sunburst isn't being respected, and she's not getting the quality time she wanted with him. Her love tank is bottoming out.
And it's true that she doesn't even need to say a lot to connect with another. Just flying kites together in silence is enough. But that begs the question, what is Sunburst's love language?
Well, we haven't spent that much time with him, but if I had to take a shot in the dark, I think it's physical touch. Part of this love language is positive sensory experience, which can include visual stimulus. The antiques, prestidigitation, and geology all have both strong visual and tangible elements to them. Notice how he lights up whenever he's able to physically engage in the activity. This could also explain why he might have jumped to snapping at Starlight so quickly when she turned them both young, as it might have felt like a violation, aka inappropriate touch.
That's no good.
Now, Sunburst never vocalizes his mistake, but he is the one who makes an effort to fix the situation and find a compromise. I think he recognizes how he neglected her and the disconnect that she's been feeling. And I have to give props on how he modernized their game to include their friends while reconnecting to their shared history. Plus, every pony gets to contribute, so it's a celebration of mutual friendships. A very good solution.
True, but I want to exercise caution. My love language is words of affirmation. People like me prefer to hear the apology rather than be shown it. In fact, I think nearly everyone would agree that a nice act doesn't mean much if it's followed up by coldness, silence, or brusque tones. One of the most common problems of a marriage is that one partner never tells the other they love them, using the excuse, "They should know through my actions."
Well, my language is an act of service. The right action can speak 1,000 words if done well. Talk without action can be empty platitudes. So what we have here is a story that highlights the disconnect in how we perceive relationships, even when we look to our own reactions.
I created a spell so we could relive playing a game in our childhood home. And bodies.
Ain't that just like Starlight to not realize how creepy she acts until after the fact? No!
Still only a quarter.
Well, I didn't want to pretend to be a foal, but I know you wanted to play. I thought it'd be fun to play a version big enough for full-grown ponies.
Wait, did that freaking nerd just throw shade at board games? What about board games makes them inherently for children?
Riddle me this. Have you ever called kids playing Knights and Dragons LARPing?
Not really. We called it playing pretend.
And we call board games for older folks tabletop gaming. It's the strange thing about language. We will invent whole new terms to express the same idea, but change the perception.
So what do we call our job? Technicolor equine analysis?
I prefer annoying asshats who take things too seriously.
You just lost that quarter.
Curses!
Still, not sure I like his comment. Isn't part of being mature that you aren't embarrassed by doing things typically considered childlike?
Which only shows we've all got some growing up to do. Sure. Break the Princess of Friendship's castle, just like the yaks and dragons and Pinkie Pie's holiday gift. Why not just knock out a whole wing while you're at it?
Oh wait, how many points does that hole have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, drat. That would have been a neat Easter egg if she blasted the symbol of friendship under him.
Or maybe it's just Starlight trying to declare her status alongside the main cast. She's the top point, next to Electronic Arts.
Anyways, they all have a good time playing their big kids version of the game. Sunburst leaves without overtly apologizing.
But with a group hug that's pretty darn adorable. Made even more so by Maud's, is that acceptance? But what's this? Sunburst has opened his loot box, and there's a super secret surprise inside. A plot point for the season finale. See? Loot boxes actually work. It just works.
No! None of that! Shame on you! I think I like the episode better than the first time I saw it, but it's still not one of my favorites. Starlight is as entertaining as ever, still being over the top while the destruction she causes is continuously minimized as time goes on. And I like the expansion of Ponyville's downtime. However, Sunburst's ignorance really got grating for me, especially considering those two previous scenes where he could see that Starlight wasn't happy, and yet did nothing. There's a good episode trying to get out, and I can't say I hate it, but overall, it felt clumsy and I still leave it feeling annoyed rather than heartwarmed. But to be fair, I might be biased due to my love language.
And by that same bias, I really enjoyed this. It was a fun tour of Starlight's various friendships, and took some time to welcome Sunburst into the fold. Thus, we have the stage set for later episodes like Student Council. Plus, there's just enough positive interaction that I can recognize the characters' mistakes without resenting them. For me, this was a fun episode. A harem episode!
What?
You got the one bashful, socially awkward boy, and the lead interest is like, Sunburst Senpai, notice me! And then there's this really energetic other girl who steals some of his attention, so the lead interest is like, Sunburst-san, hidoi!
Stop it.
And then there's another tsundere-type character who's all like, it's not like we're friends or anything, baka, but you know she's interested. And then there's yet another female interest who's all stern and reserved like, sugoi. But the main squeeze won't give up, and she's all like, Sunburst-san, ahoy gamasu! And then we have an awkward naked scene that's meant to ramp up the tension.
No, it isn't!
And as is totally true in real life, the one guy who has attracted the attention of multiple women never has to actually make a choice and keeps leading them on, like a player.
That is so not what happened! Are we even watching the same episode?
Probably not. I'm just mad that you aren't giving me credit for your running gag.
Pardon?
Don't you remember? I was your first party howitzer victim. It started with me. And like my sense of humor, you've stolen that too. Now you go and fire every passerby out of the same dang cannon. I thought we had something special here.
You know what? You're right. I think I need to start going the extra mile.
Extra mile how?
We've been meaning to test our new party nukes. I call this baby Annoying Hippogriff.
Aw, you do care.
This is probably just a one-time gag, don't take it too seriously.